Recording in progress. Oh, are we doing all from the beginning?
In the Pop Culture Cupid podcast, we talk about how pop culture influences our expectations in relationships. I'm Alison, love coach, here to help you single people find your way back to love.
Healthy communication. I'm Michelle. I help singles embrace themselves and their singleness, as well as develop a healthy self-relationship. We bring some juicy stories from our own love lives and dating, and it gets pretty interesting. Be focused. We're going to be to the point and no digressing.
Self-awareness. Follow, share, subscribe, enjoy.
And like and comment.
If it's shockingly bad, we just re-record another one.
Yeah. No, I think there's some good stuff that you can just nitpick.
Hey, Editing Alison. You'll see this version of me several times in the next few episodes, only because, just to remind you, these episodes have been recorded before we started posting, so something in the chronology may seem off. We're aware. Thank you for your patience. It is just topics that we pick up from pop culture. You don't need to have consumed anything that we're talking about. It's just listening and enjoying and chatting. So thank you and see you soon.
Recording in progress. Hello.
Hi. I think that when we record our new jingle, I'm gonna integrate you saying recording in progress in the jingle. It has to. I think in the new jingle we have to talk. We have to have Michelle saying recording in progress, and self-awareness. Like those have to be part of our jingle.
Awareness. Yeah. We've got our shticks already.
So. Exactly. We've got our. The first jingle was we were trying to make something. And now we've gotten into a rhythm, and they have to show up. I feel.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So,
what's going on? So we just recorded 2 episodes about random. I feel like I'm going to watch more Love is Blind episodes, and then we'll probably post the Love is Blind centric episodes first, and then these ones later. So we'll see how that goes. But we've just recorded some couple of topics, and we've got more topics to talk about. And I think the first one is finances in relationships, because it was a subject like in this first episode where one of the girls was saying that she doesn't really want to share 50-50 and she's high maintenance. And there was some of that in the British Love is Blind as well, where one couple didn't work out because he didn't want to pay for her for everything. Actually, 2 didn't really work out. Sorry if I'm spoiling you.
No worries.
But there are some of sorry. Oh,
it's okay. No. I like spoilers. It's okay.
But yeah, it is a subject. So I think let's go into that, because in the last episodes we were talking about passwords and how that's not a topic you want to talk about. Like, it's not that deep. However,
finance is critical. That shit is real.
How is it? So we're, for people who don't really know, we're from 2 completely different sides of the world.
Mediterranean. We're on the 2 different sides of the Mediterranean.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know very well what it's like in France and England. I think everybody kind of knows what it's like in America. But our listenership is kind of all over the world. So I'm going to say what it's like in France, and then you can say what it's like in Israel, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah.
So in France and England, so traditionally, up till, 20, 30, maybe 40 years ago, the man worked and paid for everything.
Yep.
And then, female rights, and, the 60s and 70s, and Jesus, that was not 40 years ago, that was 60 years ago. Wow. The 60s were 60 years ago. Jesus. Yeah. Anyway.
The 60s were 60 years ago, yes.
Anyway.
The math ain't mathing somehow.
The math ain't mathing. And I think And then, women went to work more, and the mathing. The women went to work more, and so started paying their way. And so it's become more a cultural norm for women to go 50-50 when it comes to once you guys are living together. However,
Yeah.
when it comes to dating and when it comes to like the prequel to a relationship, it's still kind of expected for the man to pay.
Yeah.
Pay for the dates, pay for gifts and things. Like JT's brought me flowers, so we're not dating anymore. We've got a bloody child on the way.
Yeah.
But these types of things are very nice and very surprising. But they are kind of what's expected of men, which is horrible to say, but let's be truthful. This is,
Yeah.
in France, we want to share, but men are expected to front a little bit more.
Yeah.
Same in England. And I would add that most men feel a bit intimidated if women earn more than they do.
Yeah, I think that's universal. But then, yeah, I think it's very similar here to the sense of like women definitely expect men to pay on the first, second, maybe even third date. And I think we had an episode about this, so we went into that, and we're not gonna, digress into it right now. But I think that's sort of kind of sense of something that happens everywhere. And then it's sort of like, I mean, as you progress, I guess it goes more 50-50. And then maybe once you're married and living together and managing your finances together, it's more of like percentage wise. So if like the man is making 30% more than the woman, then he might pay like 70% and she might pay, or whatever the math works out to be. Like he would pay according to the percentage. You cannot live in Israel and rely, unless someone's like stinking rich, you cannot rely on one income over here anyway. It's just near impossible because it's really expensive. So yeah, but I kind of feel like I'm digressing.
Yeah, so there's an expectation. So it's similar. I think that in Israel, it's similar to what I just said. Of at the beginning, there's an
yeah,
expectation
there's
for men to
definitely an
front, but then
expectation.
but what you said about being proportionate to income, uh, also because I have a JT and I have a very similar income.
Yeah,
We have a very similar average overall income, and then sometimes he'll earn, because he's in sales, so he'll sometimes just
yeah,
get like a huge bonus that doesn't really change our day to day. So he'll be happy to just buy something for the flat and everything, and that's kind of, so we're kind of 50-50.
yeah,
I've got a couple, like a friend who's married, and he earns quite significantly more than she does. And they talked about it and things like that. And she felt that it was unfair that they went 50-50 because his expectations for living were way higher than hers. But then she didn't want to front all of her money for rent on a
yeah,
flat that he could afford. And then he would say, fine, but I'm working really hard to earn more money. I want to have more of my income for my personal shit, because he's into gaming, he's into these things that she's not necessarily into, or he'll want to be spending a bit more money on things that she doesn't want to. She's not going to stop him from spending money, but he wants to have more disposable
yeah,
income. And so he's like, but you're in this place as much as I am. So I agree that it shouldn't be 50-50 because I can afford more, but I don't agree that it should be proportionate. And
hmm
it's a very, so I'm just gonna, kind of preamble this of just saying, you and I are not financial experts. Like this
no,
isn't, this isn't, you know, we would tend to
Financial advice.
advise,
This is
yeah,
more.
listen to Stephen Bartlett's podcast of Diaries of a CEO, because he does have like lots of people talking about
Yeah.
finance, like suggesting different things about how the person with less income can protect him or herself. Those are very interesting. This isn't that. This is just talking about how we feel about it, how it works for us, what we expect, and things like that, and how to talk
Yeah.
about it. Because
In a relationship dynamic. And,
yeah,
you know, there's a lot of, we'll probably get to it, but there's a lot to talk about in relation to money because it impacts your relationship in different aspects. I wanted to point out something very distinctive that you've said that's so important is that he's making more and he wants to live according to his standard. You said something about that.
yeah,
But she can't afford that. And so if he wants to live, so that's like this sort of tension between living by his means, but also understanding that if she was with him, she'd be living way under that. So you have to find that balance of, you know, I'm earning more, and because I specifically want to live at this standard, then I might have to pull that weight. Whereas even if he were making more, but he's fine living at her standard, then there's no problem,
yeah.
you know, and then she'll be fine paying 50-50. And I think, what was I going to say? I think that it really depends on what your mindset towards the whole situation and to money is, and it's why it's so important to have these conversations. Because I think if you were earning more than her and she's just spending his money, or she's the one who's insisting on living above her means, then that's an issue within itself, and then that's unfair. But if she's very calculated with her money, she knows that she earns X, Y, Z, and she's very careful, she lives under her means, she doesn't spend his money, then it's only fair for him to put in that extra weight because he's the one that wants to live in those standards. And I think it's so important to have these conversations and to have the same values to money. And
And
yeah,
I feel compelled to just say, you know, they have a very healthy relationship, and they just talk about it and talk, and they find I'm not sure what their solution was. I think they capped everything at, you know, I want to be spending this on my shit, you want to be spending this on your shit, and then we want to spending this on our shit, and then the rest kind of living expenses. I think they kind of capped it off. But yeah, I agree. Like there's something to say, you know, some men want to be sugar daddies, like they want to pay for the family, they want to they want to, and that's fine, and not wanting to be that is fine as well. You know, it's as long as you know what you want, and then you are clear, and don't try to change anything. I think that's completely fine. But yeah, I mean, to come back to kind of like what we're doing, you know, JT and I, we split everything half and half, like everything that we know is coming, the rent, the utilities, insurance, things like that, like we've just split down the middle.
Yeah.
But for instance, the other day I realized that there was a problem with the insurance, and we had to pay 3 months, because basically on the bank account, if there's money left over, we'll use it to go to a restaurant, we'll use it, you know, for something extra. And we didn't realize that that specific insurance wasn't being taken from our bank account, so we had to front 3 months. Very annoying, like 250 euros, very annoying. And I just fronted it. I just gave the money. Like I just thought, you know, I didn't call him, I didn't say we need to split this half and half, because I know that he, you know, he pays for other things. Like we consider that the money that we earn is our money.
Yeah.
But this is different because we've got a child on the way.
Yeah.
You
It's a
know, this
different
is
situation.
exactly, we kind of, being married, living together, and having a child on the way are kind of just three different situations
Yeah.
where now that we've got a child on the way, we can't really be kind of splitting hairs on where the money goes. Like as long as there's money there, we consider that it's our money.
Yeah.
And we also kind of he has more hobbies that cost money than I do, which I don't give a shit about. And so, but I'm aware that he will sometimes spend a couple €100 on this or that, and we want to make sure that he can do that, like that he has the money to do that. And then
Yeah.
same when I want to be buying myself, I don't know, clothes or something, something different, then I have money to do that as well, without having to infringe on our home. And so when we talk about home, it's again utilities, rent, baby, his child who's with us half time, like as long and food. As long as that's taken care of, then the rest of our money is kind of just our money. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think again it's having these conversations about money because a lot of times money is like taboo and we're scared to talk about it. And I think a lot of times we have an unhealthy relationship with money with ourselves. So then when you combine another person and it suddenly becomes all awkward and weird and it's just there's a lot of it just becomes very messy. But I think when you have first of all a healthy relationship with money and you're not scared of money and you're not scared to talk about it with yourself, then it becomes easier to discuss and to handle with another person. And, when you trust each other and when you have a good open communication about the different things, then you don't have a lot of surprises and you feel comfortable putting an extra €250 because JT has your back and you know that
Yeah.
you're paying this now, but he'll pay something else later, and you know that he won't take advantage of you paying more than him or whatever it is. And a lot of times, there's times where one person spends more, and then the next time someone else spends more. It's like we just had a weekend with my cousins, and Zev paid for. We went to in the place where we live. There's like a communal, what's the word for it? Like an eating space.
Food court.
Yeah, like a kind of not exactly food, but like there's a kitchen and people can come, they can pay and come eat and whatever. So we invited everyone over and so Zev paid for it and then everyone paid him back because then my cousins, a lot of them had my number, not his or whatever. So they like some of them transferred to me and not to him. And he was like, so I said, I'll transfer back to you. And he's like, no, it's fine, whatever. It's not a big deal. Like, it's sort of this sense of like you can trust a person to not take advantage of you because you know who they are, you know their values with money. And it's also the sense of like, it really does make a difference at the end of the day because we're in a partnership, my money, his money. It's like, as long as you don't manipulate the situation to your advantage, then there isn't much to worry about. Here in Israel, also, like a lot of times, like married couples, they would have like a joint account as well. So I don't know
Yeah,
what it's like over there.
same here. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a joint account now because we want,
Yeah.
what I was saying, like the home expenses, like they get taken from the same account and we don't really have to think about it.
Yeah. But then, you would have like some couples would close their own private accounts and then just have like one where everything goes into there, or they have to each month put in like a certain amount according to whatever percentage, you agree upon. So if it's like 50-50 or 70-30, whatever it is. Personally, I think every person should have their own account no matter what. I think I learned this from my mother, who learned it from my grandmother. Like every woman, specifically, she was talking about women. Every woman has to have her own money. God forbid something happens, she has to take care of herself. And you know what? Talking about privacy and trust beforehand, there's certain things that you should be able to buy yourself without someone seeing what you're buying, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why does someone have to see, like, besides the fact that, you know, you can't buy a gift for someone if they can see what you're spending money on, but like, if you want to buy things for yourself or just, you know, you just don't want people to see what you're spending your private money on.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of ties into what we were saying about phones and things of just
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also kind of become universal where so the only couple that I know that that she doesn't earn her own money is my mum, which is not entirely true either. But for a long time my dad was the only breadwinner.
Yeah.
So she just kind of punctured from the joint bank account. But I also think that I think that's wrong. I think that he had his money and then pushed it to a joint bank account and then pushed her some money so that she could have her like spending money that he didn't
Yeah.
have an access to. Now she's got her own her own like job and is earning her own money, which was a whole other topic about women being independent, which is what you were saying, and
Yeah.
is interesting. Um, but yeah, I think yeah, it's I mean, and then when so JT and I JT hates talking about money. He hates it.
Yeah.
I force him to talk about it once a month to just kind of like see where we are. Because also when we got together, it was a very tight financial situation, especially for me.
Yeah.
So I force him to talk about it, just so that we're completely in the clear. Because I was very open about the fact that I have no disposable income. Well, I didn't have any disposable income, and it was very complicated for me. And that I was going to rely on him, and I wanted that to be kind
Yeah.
of temporary, but he needed to be aware of that if we were going to be living together, because my other solution was going to go home back to my parents. Like it was
Yeah.
either we were going to live together and he accepted that I had to depend on him, or that wasn't happening. And and he was fine with it, and
Yeah.
down the line I'm fine. But it was something we talked about very early on, and I'm not sure that we talked about it in our first dates. But should you talk about it on the first dates?
It's a good question. I don't remember if we spoke. I don't think we spoke about it on the first few dates. I think it is something that has to come up early on because again, it's so many core values that are affected by this, even if it doesn't directly correlate with it. Like whether it's your spending habits or whether it's, you know, what you spend your money on or how you live your life. Like, because Zev and I are not people who like to go out and spend a lot of money I was gonna say bars and then started saying pubs. We go out to bars and clubs and restaurants, and I always feel like so stupid spending the same amount on a cup of wine when I can just buy it from a full bottle for that price, if not less, from the supermarket, and just like sit at home quietly and not spend a lot of money. And besides the point, I think when one side always wants to go out and always wants to spend money, and the other side just doesn't see the point in spending money on those sort of things, then it's an issue and it's something that has to come up early on because there's not much you can compromise on, or like you can, but there's always going to be that tension where someone has to go out to a fancy restaurant or even not a fancy restaurant, just going out to restaurants and feel resentment of having to spend money on this, even though they don't want to. And the other side feeling like they have to force someone to come with them to these restaurants.
Yeah.
And it's like a whole mentality around it of being in a relationship and you're going out now to the mall and your part, like Zev said with his ex, he would go out to the mall and he would have almost a panic attack because he has no idea what she's going to spend his money on next. Like she was spending his money and she was constantly buying things. And so it was like scary. So you can't even enjoy going out to the mall, to the center of town, to whatever it is without worrying. And he was like, he was like, suddenly I feel like with you, I can go to the mall because we're in the same mindset. And I know you're not going to spend my, first of all, I know you're not going to spend my money. Second of all, I know you're not going to just spend money on silly things or things you don't need or just buying for the sake of buying. It's just like coming into this more relaxed. And again, it's a whole mindset of if you're not both like, I mean, you don't have to be exactly on the same page with this, but like if you have completely different relationship with money, then it causes issues. Like I have a friend who likes to spend money and buy a lot of clothes, and she buys a lot of, you know, expensive foods and things like that. And she likes fancy restaurants, and she will never force someone to buy something for her, and she'll never force someone to go out with her to fancy restaurants. But she spends a lot of money and she spends her own money. She doesn't spend other people's money. But once you get into a relationship with someone, you know, there's gonna be that tension where eventually they're gonna have to go out with you, or it might impact them. Maybe you get yourself into a corner, maybe you get yourself into a minus. I don't know if you can get into minuses in Europe, but here you can get into a minus in your bank account.
Yeah.
And so, and then if you're married to someone, then that's gonna reflect on them. And because a lot over here also, a lot of times when you're married to someone, then it's sort of connected in like the different, like if it's national insurance, if it's income tax, whatever. And so again, these are things you want to understand early on. So Ev and I love to talk about money. We like to talk about how we spend money. We like to talk about investing. We like to talk about saving money and all these things that just, and I feel it helps us gauge where we each are and have a healthy relationship together and with money, and also see how we can keep moving on the same page and having the same sort of vibes when it comes to spending and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think it's. I think the fact that we are kind of on a similar social economical, you get it, background.
Yeah.
You and I will have similar thought processes. I definitely know people who think the man should foot the bill, or know people that the women feel who the women should be 100% independent. Like his money is his money, my money is my money, and you know, and that's that. Whereas I feel that you and Zev and JT and I, we're all kind of like, yeah, we want it to be fair, but it's kind of also not that deep.
Not black
like we're
white. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that when you have these opinions, you know, and I think, you know, it's the world is made of people who are, well, I don't think we're a majority of people. I think that there's, you know, people who think that, you know, it's split evenly in all categories. And I think, you know, maybe not on the first date, but quite early on, you should, you know, if you never have the intention of splitting the bill, or if you know, if you have certain views, I think you should talk about it on the second or third date.
Yeah, you definitely should bring it up early or not. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about as well of just like understanding. Because for me, it's very important to know that I'm dating someone who's financially stable and wise. You know, I don't, if you want to spend your money on whatever you want to spend it on, you do you. But I want to know that I'm with someone who's not gonna, who doesn't spend money unconsciously, spending money without thinking about it. Because no matter how you grow up, money has weight. You know, it's something of value, and it just, I don't like people who just throw it away, or just spend on stupid things, or just for different reasons have different relations with money, whatever it is. I think, and eventually it does impact you when someone else is being so financially thin. And what was my point?
I think the point
But
to the
also,
whole,
yeah, but also you want to know that they know how to, because again, you're starting a life with someone. You want to know that even if you don't want them to finance you, you want to know that they're capable of it, or you want to know that they're capable of providing their share of how much percentage it may be, and they're not going to have to rely on you every time. You're
yeah.
not going to have to beg them to give their share. You're not going to have to remind them all the time. And then it just
Yeah.
becomes this heavy topic that's just awkward to talk about.
And especially as like, like, not many men, some men, but not many men, stay at home a lot. It's sort of
Yeah.
women that do it a lot of the time, and that has value. And I saw this video once where the woman was calculating, like, if you're home looking after the kids in the house and cooking dinner,
Yeah.
like, let's see what that's worth. And so she
Hmm.
calculated the fees of a nanny full time and a chef for 3 meals a
Wow.
day, and a cleaning a lady a couple of times a week and things like that. And it just added up insanely, like to $150,000 a year or something. And
That's a
it's
lot
like,
of
well,
money.
yeah, that's a choice that you can make of just one of you being stay at home, but then the other one has to foot the bill, which is only fair.
Yeah.
Because, but then I would say that if you are choosing to not work, then you damn well need to make sure that your house is up to par, and like, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that was a good chat about finances and relationships. I don't think, sadly, we haven't come to any conclusion other than you need to talk about it.
Yeah.
You and I are in situations where we need to talk about it regularly. Um, but if you're in a situation where the other one earns the income, like, although you're completely clear on who foots the bill or whatever,
Hmm.
maybe less so, but you do need to talk about it, once in a while and before you become serious, because money is the number one reason why people split up. It's not
Yeah.
infidelity, it's kids, it's not health, it is money. It's the number one reason why people split up.
Yeah, because I think it really is like a core value that impacts a lot of aspects of your life. And when you're not talking about it, or where you're just not on the same page, it's really hard to bridge that gap and
Yeah.
to make it work anyway. And I think, again, it's important to talk about also with like in general to find like, logistically and to manage your finances. But also, I think it's important to talk about it just philosophically or just day to day, of just talking about
Yeah.
how like Zed and I have like these open conversations all the time about like, our relationship with money. And I think it helps us as well, each one of us individually, to feel more comfortable with money and to have a healthier relationship with money and with each other, and and I think, yeah, I think it really is important to each person give their part in a relationship with money, because it feels like you're contributing more and you're not just spending the other person's money. But it's very individual, so to each their own, and every person has to understand that what's right for them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Tell us what you guys
let
think.
us know,
Yeah.
yeah, what your relationship with money is, how you manage your finances in your relationship, and
Yeah. And comment,
yeah,
subscribe, like,
like,
share. I
share,
think those are all
and
tag words. And
follow us. Yeah, and if you have any questions, let us know. We'll be more than
yeah, if you
happy
have any
to
opinions also
respond.
about money, because I'd be curious to hear about, you know, people who think only, one side should pay, and, just no
Yeah,
judgment. I'm just curious, how do you think about it? What do you expect? And things like that.
yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.